3, 2, 1, go. You're listening to The Kyle Chambers Show.
And welcome to the Kyle Chambers Show. My name is Kyle Chambers. I'm here today with one and only Jordan Armanese, and he is a content creator, a comedian, and an actor. Thank you so much for joining the show today, Jordan.
Kyle, thanks for having me, and thanks for coming to my show, Port Dover. What did you think of the show, Kyle? I'm turning the podcast around right away. I'm asking the questions. What'd you think of the show?
I thought it was super fun, and it was in a very intimate venue there. So at Port Dover Legion, you and Eric Johnson did a really good job of really getting the crowd into it. And I think the crowd there, they heckled a little bit, which is great for comedians to go back and forth, but everyone had a lot of fun, and it was a very respectful crowd. So
Cool, man. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And we do a lot of those shows. You learn a lot about yourself as a comedian when you're doing crowds. We talked about in the show, there was so much going on in that area, like the Corn Fest and another tractor pull. I mean, it's hard to compete against a tractor pull, but we pulled in a solid crowd. And I personally, as a host, I love crowd work. Other comedians are different. They more like to do their material, but me as the opening act, most of the time, I prefer crowd work. So it's always fun. I bait them. I go to them, right? So it's good times. Appreciate you coming.
yeah, absolutely. What inspired you to start Influencer Digital Strategy Inc. as your influencer company?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. So my corporation, Influencer Digital Strategy Inc., is basically a social media content creation strategy company. I started it in 2020. I had just moved home from the Cayman Islands, where I worked for 4 years as a television sports anchor on their news with Cayman 27 News. So when I came home, I had plans to sort of not only work in broadcasting, which we can talk about later, but I wanted to be financially independent, and I believed in my abilities. And, I've been a lifelong, salesperson and relationship driven person. So building a business appealed to me. I like to just be my own boss and such. So, and I thought that there was a need in the market. I think that was the biggest reason. You look at 2020, my company's called Influencer Digital Strategy, because we make, influential style content, but I really do everything when it comes to videography, photos, infographics, social strategies. But for me in 2020, I thought to myself, this is before the pandemic. So I moved home December 2019, bought all my gear and went out and started approaching people for content, because it's funny, we're only 4+ years removed from that when I came home, but not everybody had like good high quality content on social. Everyone was using their cell phone, and like regular people, as small medium businesses, entrepreneurs like myself, they didn't have high quality content. And the biggest thing I learned being in news journalism, video journalism, was how to tell a story and how to work on deadlines, right? So you produce and I was always somebody that was ahead. I'd finish my stories. You shoot your content. I had a very strong workflow, right? I'm a very organized person. That's why when I said, "Hey, Kyle, you wanted me to come on the show," I said, "Can you send me like 3 different days? Because I want to fit it into my schedule, make sure you have my attention," right? But workflow is really important to me. So I learned in the news world, about deadlines, how to get a story done on time, how to edit things, how to use visuals, how to tell stories through, shot selection, stuff like that. And I thought that I could apply that storytelling ability and the video production and the high quality videos in good deadlines, because businesses want everything right away, but they also should get it in high quality too. So I thought, I'm going to take my relationships I started as a sports focused company, and I've transitioned into more business, because that being a sports video journalist, I had met a lot of journalists and interviewed them in the Cayman Islands. I had a radio show, a television show, and I was a sports anchor. So when you're a department of one, you get to do everything. So it's a double-edged sword. You work really hard, but you get a lot of opportunity, right? So I built a lot of relationships in sports back in Canada, interviewing people for my TV and radio show, and also in the Cayman Islands, having working with countries. There's a lot of national sports, high school sports, amateur sports. There's very little to no professional sports in the Cayman Islands, but I built relationships because I was the point of contact for sports news in the Cayman Islands. So keeping emails, talking with people. So when I came home, I started targeting and meeting with everybody I knew to sort of talk where I could find opportunities in everything really. But I put a focus in sports because that was what I knew. I was trying to set a foundation for my business. So, the motivation was to get a few clients as well as, have multiple streams of income. I worked in broadcasting. I eventually got a job with Chorus, being a news anchor on radio in Toronto at 5:30 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. That was my first job when I moved home from the Cayman Islands. So you can imagine, coming from Stony Creek, Hamilton area, my friends are all excited to see me. I've been living on the beach for 4 years, and I'm like, I gotta go. I got to go read news in Toronto. So I have to leave now because I'm driving at 4 o'clock in the morning. So my goal is always to have multiple streams of income, and having a business was important to that because, you can basically work on a project basis, or you can become a part of an organization, sort of a floating member that provides creative services like videography and social media strategy and execution, posting, scripting, whatever it is. So that it sort of evolved. And like I said, I've sort of gone away from sports and into more business focus right now. And as I started to grow revenue and to build my business and start to see a lot of clients stick with me, and other people, working with those clients, and then other people recognizing my skills, my abilities, and just building from there. I incorporated. So I went from a sole proprietor, like just a person making money with a business license, to coming up with a brand and logoing and incorporating my business. It's good for business purposes and just for branding purposes. Creates stronger legitimacy in the eyes of the business world. And yeah, now it's my full-time focus. I have a huge, not huge, but I have a good, solid group of clients that I work with that I all really like and connect with, and there's a lot of trust built between us where I'm able to be creative and sort of manage in their pages, social pages, and come up with strategies that help grow their business and their brands.
How has content creation changed from working with a real estate agent to a charity, for example?
I would say that the difference is between, producing a piece of content for a realtor and producing a piece of content for a charity, for example, is really just about the needs of the client and who the content is speaking to. Setting expectations is really important off the top, right? Understanding not everybody has your knowledge of social media. So when people say they want a video for a campaign, or they want a video coverage of their event, they want a recap video, something like that, it's always important to clarify the expectations, right? Because people don't understand, you know, where's the video going to live? Is it going to be a YouTube video? Is it an Instagram? Is it both? Those are huge implications for how you shoot the video physically, right? Because they're different dimensions. So asking clarifying questions about what the expectations of where the video is going to live, and that doesn't change between the client. But I guess what I'm saying is the guiding principles are the same. It's really just listening to the client and understanding their expectations, who it's speaking to, and what the goal is, right? So I wouldn't say it's a big difference between the clients. I would say it's just really understanding the expectations and, of the video, of the piece of content that you're doing, and why they're doing it, and what they're trying to get accomplished with the video. So
When you go into a house to do your video creation for a real estate agent, do you
mhm.
go into the house with them ahead of time to map out what you're going to shoot before you go in and shoot it?
Well, it's a good question because I actually don't do any virtual house videography or photography. I don't work in houses. I specifically do influencer content marketing. So taking the clients and sitting, and this is kind of where came together with this idea through my background in news, is I do speaking, whether it's event, like recapping events, culture videos, going into the office, getting videos to show what the culture is like, or taking the client and sitting down with the client, coming up with scripts in advance and having them educate their audience. And it's what is called a talking head video. So it's just either they're doing a podcast that we'll do on Spotify that we'll record with video and we take snippets of the interactions, or it's, hey, it's Jordan giving you advice. Here's 3 things that you need to do if you're going to start posting videos on Instagram. Like, here's 5 tips, stuff like that. It's talking head content. It was what it is. So, but to your original question, preparation is key. Preparation is super important because not every client has different abilities, right? I have clients that are really good on camera and can improv if I sort of lead them behind the camera. and I just say, hey, let's do a couple talking videos, and then I will think about it in advance. Now I have the I'm fortunate because I have a cluster of mortgage brokerages and a cluster of real estate brokerages. So I'm very involved in the space and I understand real estate mortgage brokerages and the talking points, finance, economics. These are things that I keep up with because I want my clients to be informed so they can inform their audiences. So I'm always thinking about, how things should be said from a, to make things attractive, to create engagement, how things need to be scripted, how you need to, keep your wording on camera concise. So I'll feed clients lines as we go through videos line by line, or some clients just like to free ball and I just give them the topic and sort of give them the hook, as we call it in content world. Right. So, yeah, that's kind of, but every client's different, but like the preparation is important, whether you're going into a house or going into a one-on-one shoot with a client that's for talking head content. You need to have a plan as a content creator, what you're doing when you're going in. So understanding the goals of the video, getting buy-in from the subject. Sometimes I go into a real estate brokerage office and I'm just going to get fly on the wall content because I want to get a spontaneous reaction. So I'll just rock up on them unprepared. I'll be like, hey, can I just ask you a quick question for a video? And there's a trust built because they know I'm going to make them look good. I'm not going to make them look stupid. I'm not going to put something that's makes them look unflattering. And, it's a fun video. So they'll know, okay, this is just for a fun video. So I got to tell them, set the expectations to build the trust. Right. So it's all about preparation from a production standpoint and preparation from knowing who you're working with that day and what their strengths and opportunities are, and sort of shaping the shoot based to get the most out of that shoot.
Do you find that your experience in the videography content creation world helps you as an actor and a comedian in other spaces?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's lots of transferable skills between acting and comedy and my business. I make videos of my stand up for my social media. So the guiding principles of how to make an effective video I use when I make my own content, because I want people to see the video and sort of I'm trying to grow my own following. So I'm trying to make fun videos in that aspect. I think when you're doing stand up, you need to be prepared, right? You need to practice. You need to go back and look at what worked and what didn't. And that's the same with content creation. You need to, not everything is a great idea, whether the client comes up with it or you come up with it. You're a team. So you need to celebrate the wins and understand what didn't work and adjust. So I think that works for both worlds. And, even just, when you're promoting a comedy show, there's posters, there's, you need to use the same principles. You got to tag the right people. You got to, DM some people, you got to reach out to people. It's the same as building a show, and getting people to a comedy show is the same as promoting a client or promoting yourself as a way to, build a business, right? Like if I'm doing a video, it's the same principles if I'm doing a video to promote my comedy show, right? I'm trying to use engagement techniques. I'm trying to use different things that are going to make the video fun or attractive or whatever the goal is, right? Like I need to have strong call to action. I need to have links that are properly linked to ticketing. I need to tag people, get people to share it, create some buzz. It needs to look good. So all the guiding principles are the same. Because yeah, I know, and comedy is a business, so you want people to come to the shows, and my business is a business, and my clients are I'm trying to generate revenue and engagement for my clients, just the way I am just the way I am, whether it's on the stage or promoting the show. I'm trying to get people to engage in comedy, like you saw on Saturday. It works when the audience is bought in and they believe in you and they like you, they're going to pay attention and they're going to laugh and they're going to listen, right? So it's just a different way of getting your message out. When stand-up comedy, it's live. Some of what I do is prepared joke writing, but I'm more of an improvisational comic because I'm the opening act for Eric Johnston, who I work with. So I like to get people talking and create some characters and get to know a few people so that other comedians can reference them, which is called a callback, because people love to be a part of the show. And what's present is always something that resonates strong with the crowd, which creates good reactions, right? So engaging with people is the principles of live stand-up comedy, promoting a show and creating content. And you need to refine those skills always as you continue in each of those, endeavors.
Yeah, it's really interesting how they all kind of mesh. You've kind of found your way because you were in radio for a bit and content creation and in comedy, and you were trying to find your way when you came to Mott College, when you spoke in the broadcast and creative content program in Rebecca Foster's class. You talked about how you had to find your way, and now you're kind of finding your way how to do things through many different streams and avenues, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's I would say if I had to give a piece of advice, you didn't ask me to, but just to reflect on my story, I started 2013, I started with the Hamilton Tiger Cats as a 30-ish year old intern, video journalist slash in-game host. Hey, look up at the screen type thing. We're giving away this, but they also sent me to practice with a camera and a tripod, and they taught me how to shoot videos, and I became the in-house video journalist, and I'd report on practice, right? So they paid me an education and a fee every month that an intern would get. I had taken that approach because I was actually in sales. I was working in telecommunications. I got laid off and decided this is something I always wanted to do, is sports broadcasting, right? So that was 2013. After 1 year, I told you this in the class, but I'll give you a quick recap here for everyone that's going to listen to this. And then after that year, I thought, I could go work at TSN and get into sports broadcasting. And little did I know, I might have been 30 in my 30s, but I still was naive. It's difficult to get into sports broadcasting. They don't just hire you at TSN just because you were a host at the Ticats for 1 year. Like you got to pay your dues, and it's a difficult world to get in. Right now I'm talking to you, having been laid off from Chorus. As you know, CHML, the radio station, no longer exists, but it's good news for me because I've always wanted to focus solely on content creation in my corporation. But I floundered a bit from 20 after I left the Tiger Cats because I couldn't get into broadcasting. I worked in television. I was working on television sets as an assistant director, yelling, rolling, and cut, and just being on set and learning more about television, but it wasn't steady works contract. And then eventually ended up in the Cayman Islands in 2015 as a server and bartender, not in television. I worked for a year, and then luckily I connected, and the restaurant that I was working on was owned by a Caymanian, and his partner now is from Hamilton. So she's the one that got me to the restaurant because I worked in restaurants in my 20s. I told you this in the class as well. And he found out that I wanted to work in broadcasting, and he sent me to his friend who owned the station, which was radio stations and the news station, Cayman 27 News. And because I didn't want to work at the restaurant anymore, I wanted to follow my passion, which was broadcasting. And he hired me for radio sales because he saw I worked in sales. And then the first day on the job, the news director tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I was Jordan. And I said, yes. And she goes, I heard you work for the Tiger Cats. And it turns out she went to school at York, and her husband's from Montreal, but she's from Trinidad and Tobago. And she said, the sports reporters that we have for the station is leaving at the end of the month. Would you be interested in that job? So I sort of manifested right time, right place. And that's how I got the job, right? So I think the biggest thing I learned is that you should always have multiple streams of income and multiple interests, because you never know what's going to happen. And, you shouldn't settle for just one thing. I think when you're young, you want to get a salary and just settle down. And I think when you're young is a great opportunity to take chances. Now I understand that, when I was young, I didn't have a lot of money, and that's why I went into sales, because telecommunication sales, it was a good way to make money and, just live, right? But I think it's really important to take chances and, do more than one thing. If you're a single person out there, even if you have family, time management is really important. You can work at a job, but also have a side hustle, right? And develop that side hustle alongside your job, right? Because, look at me now, my side hustle has turned into a lucrative corporation that I run now. And I'm very happy. And I'm grateful for my clients that they trust me. But what I learned was, you got to work hard and for your opportunities, and don't be settle for one thing and to just work for someone. It offers great experience working for a corporation or a business or a station, or but things, you never know. You could be laid off from your job. You could, the job, you could have no upward movement. You could have a poor culture, right? So it's important to always have those multiple interests and follow them, especially if you have a side hustle. You never know what's going to happen, right? So don't be afraid of hard work.
Yeah, you definitely have all those different streams, all those different experiences. I think with people, yeah, you're right. Sometimes they get into one thing and the salary is really good, but to have multiple streams of income, even having a career itself, it allows you to have more opportunities as a person, build those skills and connections, while also with the opportunity to make more income because you're working for yourself in many different ways.
Totally. And it's like every network, every group, everything you do comes with a network of people, and all those people may or may not have needs, right, for a service that you're offering, So it's not, it's always about connecting, being a good person, working hard, showing up early, leaving late, and leaving a good impression, because you never know if what you're doing is going to impress some, whether it's at a job and someone, a role's created or someone sees you and they want to advance you, or like a side hustle. You're out working at an event, someone else sees you, likes you, sees the product you're offering for somebody. It's like all you need is a little time management and some hard work, and you could have, multiple streams of income. And, you just really got to want it. I think it's hard. As the older I became, as I grew older, I realized the goals that I want for myself and the things that I want for myself are only going to be achieved through hard work and not settling, and not, you know, I guess in a way, like, just be, settling for just 9 to 5, right? Like I'm fortunate. I don't have any kids. I'm not married. So it's like, I can do whatever I want. I can work whenever I want, but I still have to schedule myself. I still have to schedule this podcast, right? I still have to, so either way, it's hard work, preparation, organization goes a long way.
What was it like for you to be an actor for Bulges that was featured on Crave?
Oh, it was a dream come true, honestly, to be honest with you, to be in Bulges, for a few reasons. I started doing my first show was in 1999. It was graduating high school, and I drove to Yuck Yucks when it was on John Street in Hamilton, did a spot, bombed, and then did my second show was in when I went to Mohawk College. It was like at lunchtime in the Arnie. They had an open mic. Everyone was talking and drinking beer. No one listened. Bombed again. And third time was at the end of university, 2006, Brock University. It was a actors cafe because I went to Brock for theatrical dramatic arts. And again, you sign up. I signed up. I did my act. This was 2006. Everyone laughed and enjoyed it. And people encouraged me to follow stand-up. So in 2006 to 2013, I pursued stand-up, open mics. To be honest with you, it's kind of, I did improv. I studied at the Second City. I went on auditions, stuff like that. As soon as I finished university, or even before the end, I was trying to audition and be a full-time comedic actor, right? Acting is a lot of driving into Toronto, a lot of auditions, a lot of failure. Now, mind you, it's changed now. You can send in a self-tape. You don't have to drive to Toronto for 30 seconds most of the time. But that was my focus, coming out of school, was to be an actor, right? So, to be honest, after 2006 to 2013, I did stand up, and in 2013, my last show was with Eric Johnston when he was sort of finding his way in comedy. We did it in Stony Creek. It was called Comedy in the Creek, and we co-promoted a couple shows together. And I said, I'm done with this. I'm going to work for the Tiger Cats, because I was frustrated. My act wasn't refined. I wasn't growing. I wasn't getting better. And that is a lot, especially if you're in your 20s. Anything really, it's hard on yourself. You know what I mean? I'm especially hard on myself. I want to succeed in everything I do. And I didn't see that growth, but I put it aside, went into broadcasting. And then when I moved home from the Cayman Islands, I reconnected with Eric. I hadn't done stand-up since 2013. And then as the pandemic, went away, it was 2021, I believe. He kept asking me to perform and host his shows, and I said, fine. So he dragged me back into stand-up after like 8 years. And I've been doing stand-up since 2021, and I've been enjoying it. My jokes are better. My act is better. And, all of that, getting into Bulges really is kind of like to me, it feels like a reward for, sticking with comedy and coming back to it. And just, I know I really, if you told me in my 20s I was going to be on a TV show on Crave, a comedic show that people would watch, like I would give up everything to do that, right? And now that it's like comedy is my focus, but it's not my sole focus. It's just a creative outlet that I make a little money, and I do something I like with my good friend, and I'm good, and I'm getting better at it, and I'm good at it, and people laugh, and people come up to me and say great show and stuff, and I feel like I'm growing as a comedian. That's really valuable to me. So now, and the producers of Bulges are a couple of guys from Hamilton who I know, comedic actors, and they produced and acted in a show called The Dessert, which is also on Crave. And I still had to audition, but I got it based on merit, that I was good, right? So to be able to get casted in that, and we're hoping there is a future for Bulges, that we're going to get a full season on Crave, and hopefully that'll be sometime next year. It's a real, it's funny because you don't understand the work that goes into these things, right? So here I am, 43 years old, and when I was 20, I thought I was going to be on Saturday Night Live, I was going to be on TV, I was going to be a successful comedic actor. You don't realize the work that has to go into this, So I feel very fortunate to, even though I have a small part, I made the most of that part. And if there's a season, you need multiple storylines in a season. I'm good friends with the producers, and they believe in me, and I believe in the show, and who knows what's going to happen. But it was a dream come true, and I'm just really, it was awesome to film it. All the guys are great. I was known for keeping the energy up on stage, just being funny, and making, talking with people and making sure everyone's engaged, having a good time, just because that's who I am. And I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to hopefully a full season, which we're hoping will come next year.
That's really good, and it's good how that's grown and expanded. And again, making those connections, you're good friends with the directors there, so always trying to make professional connections is important. And it's great you're able to have a lot of fun on that show as well.
Yeah, like the executive, one of the producers is one of the main actor, and it's Shane, who's Trent. We have this funny thing. I call it our monthly call. I check in, see how it's going. We shoot the shit a bit, because they're full-time producers. They got pitches, they're pitching the show, they're doing this. So yeah, no, I'm grateful that, and Mike as well, Mike Veerman, Shane Cunningham, Mike Veerman. I have good relationships with both of them. We share some friends, and we are friends, and it's great. They're just great people, and they entrusted me for this part, and I feel like I did a good job, and I'm just excited because it's something you can, when you're I'm fortunate to have a business where I can kind of shift my work around so that if I need to shoot for a day, my clients are all understanding. It's not the type of business where I got to be in front of them all the time. I create content remotely, schedule it remotely, and then when I need to shoot in person, I go and schedule it and shoot with them in person, right? So I've built a life for myself where if something like Bulges comes up where it's like, hey, Jordan, we need you to shoot for a week, you're going to be featured in an episode, I can do that because I've built flexibility into my business, and I built trust with my clients, right? So yeah, it's just great. I don't know what's going to happen with the show, but if it's just one episode, I still feel it's amazing because it was something I always wanted to do, and it's a huge goal that is accomplished that I always want to do. So
Thank you so much for joining the show today.
yeah, thanks, Kyle, and all the best to you, buddy.